Welcome to WAVE 101 Lesson 9. Today Denise is going to talk about how you know when a desire becomes deceitful. And we're going to talk about step 3 in devotional Bible study, forming the challenges. Here's Denise.
A grandfather told this parable to his grandson. And he said, "Grandson, there are 2 wolves living in my heart. One is vicious and cruel, but the other is wise and kind." Well, the alarmed grandson said, "Well, grandfather, which one will win?" And the grandfather said, "The one that I feed. The one that I feed." You know, we all have these well-worn paths to what we think is going to be our comfort, to what we think will be our help. But if they are actually deceitful desires, it can lead us away from the very help that God wants to give us and actually be a desire killer for our desire for God. Now, having said that, is it always wrong, to go for comfort, say, go out to eat, go get an ice cream cone, go shopping? Is that always wrong? To find comfort in these little things? No, no, it's not always wrong. In fact, that's normal and healthy. So how do you know when you've crossed over from a normal, healthy comfort to something that is deceitful, to something that is a desire killer? Well, let's look at number 4. A desire becomes deceitful when you rely on it to bring fulfillment, or when you rely on it to numb you. Are you needing this constant drip of food, a constant drip of TV or sleeping or alcohol or, pornography? You just need this to cope. Well, then that is crossed over because you are needing it to keep you numb. And in the same way, if you're needing to bury yourself in work to find fulfillment, you sort of draw the circle around work and you say, this is how I find fulfillment, regardless, and nothing else is in there, God and everything else is outside of that circle. That is a deceitful desire, because at the end of your life, you'll soon see you forsook the thing that was the reason you were here on earth, is to get to know God and have Him change you. So God does not want us to continually escape, escape into work or escape into the numbing kind of deceitful desires. He doesn't want us to continually escape. He wants us to experience His comfort in the midst of our problem. He keeps us in the moment. When God comforts us, He doesn't just take us out of the problem, and set us off to the side where we don't have any pain anymore. He meets us. It's a sort of miraculous commingling of His joy and our sorrow. And in that moment, when you find God's love, you experience His comfort, it strengthens you. It gives you hope so that you can know that He will see you through this problem. It gives you strength to persevere. And that is the way God comforts. He strengthens us in the midst of our problem. It's something the world doesn't have, this miraculous commingling of joy and sorrow. Dr. Dobson once said, when we become a Christian, God does not give us a detour from our problems. He gives us a guided tour right through them. God wants to be with us in every situation. Blessings on you.
Today we're going to talk about step 3 in devotional Bible study. But first, let's review about the other steps. The first step is to see the facts. In this step, you withhold judgment about whether you understand the passage or not, and instead look at it and surface the things you can see. The passage is talking about God. Jesus is going to Jerusalem, or Paul is talking. Just pick out these little facts and write them down. Your objective is to get immersed in what's there as opposed to understand what's there. Step 2 is formulating the lessons. In that step, you look at what you came up with on step 1 and you turn it into what you can learn from the passage, into a principle. Like sometimes God wants us to leave our comfort zone. That was one we came up with. That's step 2. You come up with a principle. Step 3, by the way, in step 2, you could probably only have one lesson in a passage. If you're looking at 5 verses, you might get 5 or 6 facts, and you'll only get 1, maybe 2 lessons. Step 3 is surfacing the challenges. In this step, you take each lesson you came up with and you turn it around into a question that challenges your life. The objective here is not to evoke guilt. The objective is to try and identify where this passage touches your life and explore it and prepare for the last step. So there are a couple of fill-ins that I'd like you to take a look at. If you're following along in the book, they're on page 53. They're also in the electronic lesson. In this step 3, we ask and answer the question, where does it touch my life? Where does it touch my life? And you should have as many challenges as you have lessons. So if you're looking at your passage and you come up with one lesson, you should have one challenge. It's just a restating of the lesson in the form of a question. If you have 2 lessons, you should have 2 challenges, and so on. Let's take a look at a couple of the verses that we've looked at in previous lessons and show you each of the steps and show you how the challenges work there. The first one is taken from Psalm 28, verse 7. Let me read it in the New American Standard. The Lord is my strength and my shield. Okay, in previous lessons we've surfaced step 1. We've seen facts in that lesson. For example, we saw that the Lord was my strength. That's a fact. The lesson we came up with was, what is strong about me is that God is on my side. That's the lesson, that's the principle, that's what we can learn. That's how we're strong. God's on our side. Okay, a challenge, step 3, turn that lesson into a question that challenges your life. What is strong about me is that God is on my side. A challenge could be, do I really believe that I'm strong now that God is on my side? You see, the lesson, what is strong about me is that God is on my side. The challenge, do I believe I am strong because God is on my side? Okay. Another part of that verse, the Lord is my shield. We observe that shield is something of protection. A shield helps you be safe. So the lesson would be, I am safe because God is on my side. God is my shield. So I am safe because God is on my side. He's my shield. So turning that into a question, you can say, do you really believe you're safe now that God is on your side? You see how it just turns the lesson into a question and challenges what you're currently thinking and what you're currently assuming about your life. Okay, let's take another passage. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. We studied that before. Let me read it from the New American Standard. Now the Lord said to Abram, "Go forth from your country, and from your relatives, and from your father's house, to the land which I will show you." Okay, we looked at this, and there's several things we surfaced, but let's just focus in on one of the items. God told Abram, who turned out to be Abraham after his name was changed, God told him to go, leave all these things behind, but he didn't tell him where to go. He said, "Go to a land which I will show you." So God was telling him to leave without giving him all the information. The lesson we came up with there was sometimes God wants us to take action without having all the information. You see how that's something we can learn from this passage? That's what happened here. God asked Abram to go without giving him all the information. Sometimes he does that. That's our lesson. So how do you turn that lesson into a question? Sometimes God asks us to take action without giving us all the information. Am I willing to take action on something God is telling me to do without having all the information? Am I willing to do it? Okay, so the lesson, sometimes God asks us to do this without all the information. Am I willing to do this without having all the information? That's step 3. That's a challenge. And that will set you up for this final step. But do you see how we're working our way from surfacing unrelated facts to identifying a principle? Now that step 2, we'll have more to say about that. And we'll take care of you so you'll figure out how to do step 2. Don't worry about that. After you get that principle, this third step is simply turning it into a question where you can explore how it touches your life. Okay, next time, Denise is going to talk about overcoming deceitful desires, and we'll go over the last step, step number 4 in Bible study, responses. Until then, Lord bless you.